Siri, is it working? Yay! All right, we have some people tuning in. I'm so excited. Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. How are you? So glad everybody's here. I'm going to take that off. Looks a little weird. All right, that's better. Yay! All right, I'm going to give it a few minutes before I get started. That way we have more people that can log on and get joined with us today. That way we have some time for people to log on and get started. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. I'm going to adjust my camera a little bit. Hi. I can see comments here on the bottom, so if anybody has any questions while we're doing the live today, feel free to post any questions. If you're looking for a certain item that I'll be using today, you can see them on the top screen with the bead chest, or you can email them with any questions you might have too. About any products that they might have that we're either using today or that we might scan over later. Yeah, I'm so excited we're going to be doing this. So I'll be doing 3 different projects today as well as a wire wrapping tutorial. I think that will be fun. We'll be making some boho hoop earrings, which is made with a really neat Indonesian rondelle shaped glass. That's fun to work with for bracelets and necklaces as well. So I'm going to give it a few more minutes here and then I'll get started. And I have 2 bracelets and a necklace I'll be sharing. I'll be demonstrating the multi-strand bracelet today and then the wire wrapping projects. Since we have an hour, I have to kind of condense things down a little bit, make sure everything works. So, okay, cool. Well, I see your comment on there. Hello. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I did want to show off the few of the items that I made with these beautiful beads I got from the bead chest. So one of them I'll be using today, again, it's on the top screen above me, is a black matte disc. Looks kind of like this. I'm going to demonstrate it like that. It's a really cool shape. And one thing I really like about this is it's a great way to use as a spacer bead to like sandwich in between other beads if you wanted to have something with some detail that isn't too heavy or too large of a bead. It's great for earrings as well. If you want to stack it this way, or you can stack it this way for a bracelet, or if you want to get really creative, you can use it in some necklace parts as well. So I think it's a really great strand of beads. They offer this in different sizes and different colors. Again, here's a close-up of this one. And I think it's great. It's lightweight, it's glass, so it's again great for a spacer bead or a way to add texture to a piece of jewelry without it being weighted down. If you wanted to use a whole strand, that way you can get a lot of different multi-purpose uses with this. And again, it comes in different colors. I also used these silver capped black onyx stone ones. Now these are fun too. These come in lapis, these come in pearl, they come in lots of different colors, in brass capped as well as silver capped. Here's a close-up of these ones. I wanted to do a theme of black and silver. When I selected the beads, I kind of wanted to do it because it's great for the upcoming fall season, winter season as well. Plus black goes with everything, so you can wear it with all kinds of combination of outfits. So here's a close-up again of this one. I love the detail on the end of these bead caps. They are so pretty. It's kind of like it's a floral detail, if you can see right there. I just think these are beautiful. Again, they come in a variety of colors on their website on the beadchest.com, and they come in different metal caps as well, with brass or with the silver. The other beads I'll be using are another black and silver, and it's kind of like a lampwork glass shape. That's kind of how I see it. I'm going to hold these up too so I can do a close-up of this one. These are also black and silver. So this is a black outside, exterior on the bead with the silver center. And so it's really great for like a subtle hint of a silver. Here you go. As well as adding some black detail to a black and silver themed jewelry line. So I really like how they complement each other as well. And if you wanted to mix up more, so you have either more silver or more black, then you can move the beads around And one of the bracelets I made, here's a close up, but this one I mixed in. Oh, you know what? Shoot, I left out one of the strands because I almost used it. I apologize. I'm also using this oval shaped black onyx. You can see it. I got again up in the photo square above me. It's a really neat shape. So these are beautiful black onyx. They're lightweight stone and they're drilled really nicely on each end. And I did a necklace and bracelets and I still had pieces left over. You can get a lot out of one strand. Here is an up close view of the necklace that I did. And for this one, I mixed a variety of black onyx along with the disc beads here that are the glass ones. So that way you can have a different texture with the black color consistency. So that way it's not all just one stone shape. I wanted to also make it look kind of simplistic as well, but also daring with the different shapes of textures of beads and glass together. And then I'm using the brass as spacer beads in between. And I love those spacer beads. I use them like water. They're amazing. And the pendant is in the photo up above too. Here's a close up of the pendant. So again, I did a necklace with the combination of the glass and the oval black stone. And here's a bracelet. So again, going with the black and silver theme, I wanted to mix all three bead strands together for different, again, like the texture and the colors together and the overall theme of black and silver. But I'm mixing the different silver and black beads together. So that way you have an overall look with the same color palette, but with different textures of beads, but also a fluidity as you're looking at the bracelet. So the texture kind of goes around. When I make jewelry, it sounds weird. I have a form of like engineering in it. So I like to have everything kind of like match copacetically, but also has a nice texture with a themed color palette. And so for the multi-strand bracelet, which is this one, I did one strand with pearls, and I have a second and third strand with different size pearls with the black and silver beads incorporated as well. So we have one strand with the black onyx and the oval, and the second strand I just have pearls with the more rondelle shaped beads. And then I do have this really fun charm. I love it. The bead chest has these really fun charms. Here's a close up of just this one. And they offer these in different types of colors as well in brass and silver. So there's a nice assortment. If you don't want to do silver, they offer them in brass as well. And so here's a close up of the multi-strand. This is what we'll be making today for the tutorial. And then we'll be wire wrapping some boho earrings as well. And here's a close up of those. I love this glass. I've made some bracelets out of it. It's a lot of fun. Here's a close up of the earrings. Super fun, easy, basic, beginning tutorial on wire wrapping, but you know, it takes you less than an hour and you can have a cute pair of earrings. And also here's a close-up of the pearls we'll be using. The bead chest does have a nice variety of pearls in different shapes and sizes. The Japanese pearls, as well as smaller ones and larger ones, and in a variety of colors as well. And the price point on the pearls is really friendly. So if you did want to incorporate them in your jewelry, it is a nice price point. It won't get you in the wallet too much. And then you can also take one strand and make a variety of projects. So if you wanted to fold it in half right there, there's two bracelets with some leftovers. So you can get a lot out of your strand of pearls as well. And I'm using the Beading brand wire, and I'm using the #1 crimp bead and wire guards and crimp cover. So I think I covered everything. All right, so let's get going. All right, so I'm going to, if I can tilt my camera around here. Sweet. And I will be moving my camera around. All right. Turning on and directing me to do stuff and I don't want it to. Okay. So I have my black onyx here in a little dish. This is all this is what I have remaining because I used a lot of that strand. It's a lot of fun. I love that strand. All right, and again, here's a close-up of the bracelet we'll be making. I will type out the directions for this, so that way if you want to copy the exact order of beads, it'll have step-by-step instructions on how to make it, so you can duplicate it for yourself. If you did want to do this bracelet as well, I can also type up the directions so you can duplicate it if you're more interested in the single strand. So for this one, I'm going to do this. Also, I did wire wrap a couple pearls as charms for the base of the bracelet, and I'm just using a silver ball head pin to do that. All right, so the first step is I cut 3 strands of wire, and when I do a multi-strand bracelet, I cut the wire the same length. So I do that first, and then when I finish the bracelet as well, I want them to be almost the same length, beaded. That way when it falls on your wrist, you have a little bit of room for them to lay side by side on the wrist, and be comfortable without competing for space and not stacking on top of each other. So when you wear it, it'll be, like similar to this, where they'll lay side by side without wanting to group up and be too tight on top of each other. You don't want them to compete for space. You want them to lay flat next to each other. And you can pick where you want your pearls to lay, for example, but you want it to lay flat so it looks like this. All the way. Okay. So I do demonstrate this, assuming you know how to make jewelry, but I go through the steps just in case somebody watching doesn't. So when I do a multi-strand bracelet, the first thing I do is I add my crimp bead. You can use a crimp tube. Again, I'm using the #1 round crimp bead, and I am using a wire protector or wire guard. And I take my wire and I go up through the wire guard like this. You want to feed your wire through it and go back through your crimp bead like so, and then pull your wire through. You want to have the ends pressed together to where they're pretty close to touching here. And then you want to have enough room between the top of your crimp bead and the base of the wire guard to get your tool in there without crushing the legs portion of this. So we want to grab our crimping tool and crimp down once. And I'm going to rotate it around to the side, and I'm going to use the outside of the crimping tool here and crimp down again. And you're going to have this little bit of a hamburger look where your crimp bead is. I'm going to take my wire cutters and trim off the excess wire and add a crimp cover. I like crimp covers because they just kind of finish it off and help it look a little bit nicer and hide the crimp itself. And I'm sorry if you can hear, I have landscapers outside. If they're a little loud, I apologize. And when I'm doing this, I just grab my chain nose pliers. I just kind of press down around the crimp cover and around it so it's not flat, and just kind of gently press it down, and it will cover up your crimp cover, your crimp. And again, it's just at the base of the feet here of your wire protector, so nothing is smashed into each other, but they're also close enough to where the wire is on there nice and secure. So for this one, I'm going to start with the outside strand with the larger beads on it. And I'm using pearls. Again, these pearls are available on the website. They have different sizes and colors. So if you decide you don't want to do bracelets black and silver, they have other ones that are available. And I'm just going to grab one. I'm also using the silver. I'm going to laugh at how I say this word because I always say it wrong. These guys. I love these guys. They're about $5 a strand, and they come in brass and copper and silver. Here we go. It's a lot of fun. They're super thin, so they're great for spacer beads to separate your beads as you're working from each other. And so I'm going to start with one of those, and then I'm going to grab the silver capped onyx beads. Sorry if my camera gets blurry off and on. It wants to autofocus. And I'm just going to grab one of these. And the size wire I'm using is 0.46 millimeter. So you want to make sure though the wire you have is thin enough to fit through the drill ends of the beads. If it's too thick, it won't be able to fit through the space. You also want to make sure it's a wide enough wire to handle the weight of the beads too. So when you're looking for a beading wire, just make sure that you have a wire that will fit through the drill areas. So I got that one. So the pattern on this one, I'm going to have this bead and then another pearl. And so when I'm going through this, I'm just going to say out loud kind of what the pattern is that I'm using. And spacer bead. So that way I'm giving directions as I'm going. I'm also using the 6mm silver crisp beads. I use these as a bead cap. Primarily, I love the brass ones in the 6 and 8mm. They're a great way to use different types of beads as a bead cap. I'm going to be using these ones next, and they have a slightly larger drill hole on the inside here. So I think these are great to use a bead cap with to just cover the end a little bit, and it helps decorate it too. So here's what this one looks like. When you have the crisp bead as a bead cap on the end, it's just a nice way to kind of complement it with a little bit of extra decoration, and it covers up the drill hole. And a spacer bead. And for this one, next I'm going to use our glass black beads. And again, these are fantastic way to add extra texture and a little bit of color to a project that you're using. They're not heavy, and they're a great price point as well. And you have an entire strand that you can, mix up multiple projects with. And they come in lapis blue too. So I really like that, because if you wanted to work with lapis, you could introduce the blue glass and they would really complement each other as well. So I'm going to go with this guy again. Okay. Again, these black and silver cap beads are a lot of fun to work with. They have a really pretty floral detail on each end of the caps. So when you're wearing them with your jewelry, they'll have this nice little like lotus flower detail on the end, which adds a little extra to your jewelry. And another pearl. So I'm using pearls a little bit more on this strand as more of a spacer bead type design. Like I wanted to have one strand where I had a little bit more pearls in it to go with the pearl single strand. That way they're all kind of tied in together. And you don't need to have the bead caps with the glass rondelles, but if you wanted to, I kind of thought about doing that. It would also look neat, just a little something extra. And another pearl. And I'm going to grab some more of those crisp beads for the other rondelle. If anybody has any questions, you can feel free to post your comment down below here in the comment section. There's a little toggle bar. We're more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. And add that bead cap as well. So again, I'm just going back and forth between pearls and a primary bead. And using the silver spacer beads too as I'm working. That one. Pearl. And we're almost finished with this strand. So you can make this bracelet in about an hour, less than an hour, depending on how fast you bead. This one. I really love these silver spacer beads. They're so perfect for just adding a little something extra. Okay, I'm going to do one more of those. All right, 2 more beads with this one and we're finished. And again, here's a close-up of these silver crisp beads. These are just so fantastic to work with jewelry. I love using the brass ones as well. They're a really great way to add an inconspicuous piece of detail to your jewelry, but just making it look, nice and finished and refined at the same time. Okay, and a pearl. All right, so this is finished. Now this is for a 7.5 inch long bracelet. So here's what this strand looks like. You would want to alter the pattern based on how long or short you would want it. You would add or remove beads, but here's a basic design idea of it. And so I've added pearls in between the black and silver beads to kind of anchor them in, but also introduce the pearls so that way each strand matches. So I'm going to finish off this one. And again, I'm going to use a crimp bead and a wire guard and a crimp cover, and then this strand is finished. Whoop, never mind, they fly. They are flying off today. They're like, no. All right. After this, 2 more strands and our bracelet is finished. Yay. And I thought about doing a similar design with this with other colors. Again, they have the same disc rondelle glass in blue and pink. I think this would be fun if you wanted to do like a rose quartz design. It just depends on what you can find with the silver capped beads to match. Cramp that down. This one. And I'm using chain nose pliers. These I use for everything. They're fantastic to get into small spaces for wire wrapping, as well as just general beadwork with the narrow endings here, and then how they point in. They're great for like moving bead caps around and just varieties of beads. There we go. It's done. Off a little bit. All right, so we have our first strand finished. The other thing is when you're making jewelry, you want to make sure you have a little bit of room at the end of where you add your cap cover that your bracelet can bend over the wrist nice and smoothly and have a circular shape without it bunching up and being too stiff. So when you're working with beads, you want to make sure that they're not too stiff and they're going to like kind of act like this. You want to make sure that they can curl around. So when you are working with bead caps, you want to make sure you have a little bit of space on the wire so that way as this is turning around over your wrist, the beads can bump back up along the wire and have room to be comfortable like so. All right, so we're going to go on to the next strand here. And again, doing the crimp bead and the wire cover. And go back through. And I'm so glad that everyone is joining us today. Thank you so much. If you do decide to make these projects or a similar one, please feel free to share photos with me. I would love to see your finished projects. Okay, this one. This one there. That one's too big. Yeah, different. And here we go. All right, so the second strand, I'm going to also use the same beads we did in the last one, but introduce the black onyx oval one. And again, these are fantastic beads. These would be great for earring base. They're not too heavy. They're the perfect size, I feel like, for a good pair of earrings. If you wanted to go this direction, you know, it'd be really nice to add some things like that to that and turn into a cute pair of earrings. All right, so for this one, we're starting with the silver capped bead here in the black onyx. And again, you know, you can always add the crisp beads to the front and back of this to have an extra little added detail there if you wanted to add more crisp bead covers. And for this one, I'm going to have pearls in it as well, just a little bit less pearls and more of the black tone beads instead. So again, I'll be using crisp beads to go around these guys because they have a larger drill hole, and it will just kind of help cap off the size of the drill hole as well as add a little extra detail to it. And for this one, I'll be mixing a little bit more of the glass rondelles into it. Like so. And a pearl. Like this. And here's where we're going to introduce the black onyx oval beads. Here we go. We're going to put one of these in there. So when I was making this too, I tried to make sure they fell into an area on the wrist where it was bending either towards this part or on the top, because you don't want to have that shape come on the side. It's going to want to like not turn over the wrist quite as easily. So when you're designing your bracelet, you want to make sure it falls in a space where it can lay flat and not like compete around a curve, you know, like up here or down here, but like along the side, it's a little bit more stiff. Okay, so we're gonna have some more of the rondelle glass. And again, this rondelle glass is a lot of fun and it comes in different colors. So you could use them for earrings, necklaces, and bracelets and make really fun jewelry. And I'm going to use a bead cap again. Yes. And the crisp beads again, you have a really large amount that comes on your strand. So you will get many projects out of just buying one strand of the crisp beads. It's a very good investment. You'll get a lot of use out of them. I use them like water and they do last a nice amount of time, which is really good. Okay. And then we're going to do another silver capped one here. So this pattern, again, I do have the black onyx ovals and I'm using pearls and the rondelle matte glass. And I do have pearls, and again, I just have a little bit less. That way we can have a little bit more of a black beaded portion on here. Okay, let me get this one off. Here we go. This, and we're going to add a pearl. And as you're making your bracelet, you might pause every once in a while to just make sure it's falling where you want it to lay on your wrist, and it's that they're falling side by side how you want them to, and just kind of see how it looks for the pattern that you would like it to have. And we're going to add another onyx here and down here and a pearl. I'm going to have it end on a pearl on this one. Again, I'm making a 7.5-inch bracelet. That seems like it's a good size. So you may end yours with the pearl and you may not, but here's the pattern for this one. So we have pearls around the onyx, and then we have the bead, crisp beads as bead caps around the larger ones here. And then we have our silver capped beads in there. So this one's finished. I'm going to go ahead and close this one off, and we have one more strand left, and then this bracelet is done. Not too bad. Finished 2 strands in less than 20 minutes. So if you wanted to make a nice bracelet for yourself and you only had a couple hours, this might be a fun project to go with your dress for, let's say you go to a wedding or something. Here we go. And there is enough beads when you buy these, you will have a lot left over for multiple projects. So I think that's awesome. You can make your friend matching bracelets, etc., and really get your use out of the beads. Okay. Again, I'm just going to close off this with a bead cover. All right. Sometimes bead covers like to get away and they don't like to cooperate very well. Let me get a different one. There we go. I'm using a 3mm size bead cap cover, by the way. Okay, there's that one. So we have 2 strands finished so far, and this will be our third and last one. We're going to go ahead and make this really pretty pearl strand like so. So the pearls, I'm using a silver 11-0 seed bead as a spacer bead in between each one because they're smaller, and you don't want to overpower pearls too much when they're smaller with a metal spacer bead. So I find I can have the same look with glassy beads, and it also takes some of the weight off of the bracelet as well, so it's not too heavy when you're finished. And this way. Put a cap on this one. All right, and then after this, we'll do a tutorial on how to wire up those fun hoop earrings. And then you will have a bracelet and a pair of earrings to wear when you're finished. And that's exciting because the earrings will also match your bracelet. They have the Indonesian glass in different colors as well. So you can make the hoop earrings with different color glass to match your bracelet you're making today if you just wanted black, for example. Okay, so again, for this one, we're going to do the smaller pearls. So I'm using the Japanese rice pearls, and then I'll be using a spacer bead in between each one. Go. Dump some of these out. And you don't need too many. I just kind of dump a few out on my table and then pick up our pearl and add a spacer bead. And with this too, you again want to make sure you have a little bit of space at the end of your strand that you will bend over your wrist like so, and they won't be too stiff to bend. So you want to make sure before you close off the wire that you have a little bit of room between the clasp, between the crimp bead and the end of the wire. That way it has room to bump up. And again, just depends on how long you want your bracelet strand. So again, I'm doing 7.5 inches. You might need a little bit less pearls if you're making yours smaller, or maybe one or two if you're making it larger. So I don't have a specific number of pearls I'm using. I'm just kind of tossing them on there. Like so. And these pearls are really, really pretty pearls. They are drilled really nicely. So to me, they're like very high quality pearl. And they have a shimmer that goes all the way around without any flaking. So some pearls that you buy, the exterior will have a different color. So what I mean by that is you'll have portions that are like shimmery and parts that are like look like they're peeling off or like to a matte. This is a really good high quality pearl. They're consistent in their colors, and none of them are peeling off. Like they're very high quality, and the drilling is immaculate too. It's very easy to string these without having to fight to get your wire through. Yep, there's a close up of them. If you look at the screen up above, there's a close up of them. They're really pretty, and again, you can make earrings. Um, these are 1 millimeter, I think, drill hole. So if you're using wire, you probably want to use a 26 gauge. If you're going to be using a stiff wire, the beading wire I'm using is 0.46 millimeter. So you want to make sure that the beading wire is thin enough to fit through them. Okay, make sure. Okay, add a few more. And then as I'm going to, again, I just sometimes hold it up to my wrist to make sure I know where I'm at size wise. Like I kind of do this and go, okay, well, I have so much room for a clasp. I'm almost finished. Or you can hold it up to the previous strands that you've made to make sure that the endings all match. Okay, so I need to do one more here and end. All right, so I'm ready to end the strand, and then we can put the bracelet together and add our charm, and we are finished. Yay. So you can have a really nice multi-strand bracelet in about a half an hour. That's not too shabby. And, you know, you could probably make with you have 16 inches in a strand. So if you're making, you know, an 8-inch bracelet with your clasp, you could get 2 bracelets out of each one. That's not too bad for the parts that are a little bit more specific. Right. on there and close up. Okay, again, I'm going to close up over the crimp cover. All right, so we have our 3 strands finished. Get those out of the way. So how I finish off a strand is I use a 6mm heavy gauge jump ring, and I'm going to bring them together. I usually like to do the lightest strand out to the outside. Doesn't matter, it's just my own personal preference. And do one out on this side, like so. And just bring them together on the jump ring on the both ends, the same space. That way they will lay flat and cooperate on your wrist. If they're not in the same space on the jump rings, they'll try to lay over each other, and then your bracelet will roll and will try to flip over backwards. Okay, so here's this one. And I'm going to add a clasp. I'm using a toggle clasp for these ones. You can use a lobster clasp or whatever you feel comfortable with. Again, just add a jump ring where you find you need it. I'm going to bring it here on this one. And one more. And then I'm going to add my charm, and then we are finished. Yay! We'll start over to our wire wrapping tutorial. Close this one off. The other thing really quick too is when you're adding your final jump ring for your clasp, you want to make sure your jump ring is in a spot where here at the top, for example, it's not separating the beads, impacting them to want to lay differently. So you want to have your strands go like this. You want to make sure when you're attaching your jump rings, they have these lined up and give them space. All right, so this is finished. Just going to do that. And you just want to make sure too, it rolls nicely on the wrist. So it's rounded. It's not too stiff or competing with each other where it wants to like, be too stiff. It's nice and rounded. So yay, we did good. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my charm here again. I'm using the silver capped pearl one, and they have these in brass as well, and a lapis and a couple different caps. Here's a turquoise one, and I'm just going to add it to this jump ring this side. And all right, so this bracelet again is finished. If you wanted to wire wrap some pearls on the end, you could add some of those as well with some silver ball head pins. But here is today's bracelet project. I just think it's really beautiful, and it's great. You can wear it year round with different kinds of outfits. I think it's really pretty to look at. So here is today's bracelet project. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Art Beads. We're more than happy to help you out with anything you might need to know. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and get to the earrings. Okay, I'm going to clear this out of the way. Give ourselves some room here. Okay, so I am using, again, 18 gauge artistic brand wire beadalon. This is for sale in the store. They have different types of colors of artistic wire brand for sale and at the Bee Chest. You want to have it be 18 gauge though. 18 gauge is a stiffer wire and it's a thicker wire. How wire works is the smaller the number, the larger the wire. So 14 is larger than 18 and 12 is larger than 18. 26 will be very, 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 very skinny. Um, so that is how that works. I'm also using some wood rondelles. This one is a 25.4 millimeter. It's a good size for a hoop earring. And that way too, these aren't too big and heavy on the ear. So I'm cutting about 4 inches. You could probably do 3, but I like to have a little extra just in case. And I'm going to cut 2 pieces that are the same length. Let me get this out of the way. And the next thing you want to do is take the center of the wire and have it go underneath the center of the mandrel here, and then just pull them together. You can do them singly too if you want. It's fine, one at a time, and just kind of fold them around and shape them into a circle. And it looks kind of basic, but it works out great. So we have 2 that are the same size with the wire in the same position for 2 different hoops. So you can either go ahead and form your loop now, or you can add beads and form your loop. It's a little bit more of a challenge to bead first and then do your loop because the beads will want to fly off. So I'm just going to do my loop now. So you're going to grab your round nose pliers and bring it around the wire around like so. So you have a top loop, and you want this loop to be straight up and down as well, because you're going to add an ear wire to it. You want to have it nice and straight like so. That way it stays this way on your ear. And I'm going to cut down this excess wire like so. And you can use your chain nose pliers or round nose pliers, just kind of bring it in a little bit. That way it ends. Like so, here's a close up of this. So you have your loop established, and now your beads will stay on a little bit easier. So I'm just going to kind of pry this out away from where my loop is. You don't want to bend it back open if you can help it, because it's going to make the hoop large again. You just want to kind of bend it out instead of open like this, out this direction. And if you did buy pearls, the pearls, you have to use a skinnier wire than this one, just heads up. It does work great though for these beads. If you wanted to mix and match these beads in with your earrings, you could do that. Okay. Um, Looking for my copper spacer beads. There they are. I'm using copper wire because you can oxidize it if you want to antique it for darker color. You don't have to use this. You can use brass wire. You can use any kind of wire you want, silver wire. You just, again, want to make sure it's 18 gauge. And then I'm using a 4mm copper rounded spacer bead. You can use whatever spacer bead you want. I just happen to have these, and the hole is 2mm, so it works great on an 18 gauge wire. And I'm just kind of using it as a spacer bead slash stopper bead to support the glass. And here's a close up here of the glass I'll be using. They have this in different colors as well. It's a really nice rondelle shape. Okay. And you can take these off the strand and mix and match different colors, or you can just use whatever's on your strand and then just take a grouping of them, put it on your wire, pull the string out, strap right there on your wire, go back through again, just pick up some more beads. So pull out the strand. And I think for this one, I had 19 beads on there. You don't want your hoops to be too heavy. So I had enough glass on there to give me a cute hoop detail without the hoop being too laden down with glass, because then it might pull in your ear too much. And I just found, oh, if I happen to use this amount of glass, it works great. There we go. And almost finished with this one. Okay, I think I'm good. I'm just counting how much gloss I have. And again, I'm going to use a copper spacer bead. And I'm going to use this to pull down the glass. So I'm getting it close to the top of the loop here, but you want to leave space, that way you can wire wrap around it. You don't want to have everything bunched up too high to the end of the base of the loop here, otherwise you can't go around it. So I want to have a little bit of room, and I'm going to bring my other wire up. And I also want to make sure that it's laying in the same space widthwise as the other one. So what I mean by that is, if I have, let's say, this much space for the wire here, I want to have the same amount on this side, ignoring this because I'll be wire wrapping it. So that way when your earring falls on your ear, it's equally spaced on the wire. So you want to have the same amount on each side, just so it looks like it's measuring correctly. And then you want to pull your wire around. So our first loop, I'm going to do it again. And you just want to go around your loop twice and then cut off excess wire and use your chain nose pliers here and pinch that down closed. And you want to make sure it's pinched down nice and flat. That way your wire is not poking out the back and it doesn't pull on your hair or on your ear or anything as you're wearing them. And you just kind of want to pinch that in nice and carefully. That way it's nice and flat. And here we go. So we have our first hoop done, and you can also like press down the glass a little bit and reshape it if you want to have it a little bit more rounded, like so. And then we're going to do that again with this one. So I'm going to use the shorter wire, going to form a loop here at the top. Bring this around. Now this wire is stiff, so it's a little hard using your hands. You may want to use a tool when you're forming your loop to move stuff around. Put this down and do this. Use my tools to make sure it's nice and straight. And again, I'm going to pick up my little round copper spacer bead here. And this is a super basic design. I know you could add more beads if you wanted to, or more spacer beads. I just kind of wanted to do an easy beginner wire wrapping earring tutorial with the glass. And again, this is a great project. You can do this, in under an hour and have a cute pair of earrings to wear. And they do have other kinds of glass in different colors available. So that way, if you wanted to have just blue, for example, they have some variety of Indonesian glass that's available that you can work with. So you just want, they have a really pretty pink. It's like this one. If you want to just have pink, I've worked with that for a few times with the bracelet. Okay. And bring that one in. Now, before I finish this off, again, you just want to double check and count you have the same rondelles around the hoop as this one. That way they match in size when you're wearing them. I just want to bring that up. Grab my copper spacer bead, like so. And again, I'm just going to kind of bring this up and around with the same amount of space on each earring, like so. Bring this up and around. I'm going to kind of lay it underneath my hoop here. So, and then bring it around. So you can just bend it around, again, your loop, top loop twice, bring it around, and then cut off your excess wire. And oops, I'm going to use my chain nose pliers here to kind of pinch this and close it off. And then when you're finished, you can add ear wires. Try it floating around here somewhere. Here we go. I'm just using some French style ear wires and slide them through your loop. You just want to open them up enough to slide through your loop here and then close them like so. And then you have a fun pair of earrings to wear. And the diameter of this is a little bit larger than, or about the same as a 50-cent piece. If you don't know what that is, an inch and a half. I know technically this is 25 millimeter, but with the beadwork and everything, it goes to about an inch and a half or so. And with both ear wires, you now have a cute pair of boho hope earrings. Yay! And you still have a lot of glass left over on the strand to make a necklace, a couple bracelets, or a few more earrings. So here is this one up close. I think it's so fun. It's a great colorful way of adding a little bit of splash of color to some earrings for an outfit. And, or again, you can use different glass, but it's a fun way of making some cute boho hoop earrings. All right, I'm going to turn the camera on here in a minute. Here we go. And adjust it. This is the fun part. All right. So yay! Thank you so much for joining me and the bead test today. I hope you learned something. Oh, sorry. I hope that you had fun. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the bead test, send them an email, give them an instant chat on Instagram or on the website. If there's something you're looking for in particular on one of their amazing items, they're more than happy to help you out. Again, if you look up a lot of the items I used are in this really cool thing up there. They also have turquoise rondelles I've really fallen in love with. She has them laying up there because I put them in a bracelet that I will pull out actually really quick. Here we go. Oh yeah, while we're doing this too, here's the necklace I made. Check out this necklace I made with their turquoise. It's beautiful. And one of their pendants. So you can do a lot with the bead chest, and hopefully you will have a good time shopping, and then you can share your jewelry designs with all of us. My name's Andrea Beaver. Thanks for joining me today. I had a lot of fun seeing you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. And thank you so much for being here.